Welcome to Why Your Business is Invisible Online, the podcast that connects businesses online with the people they want to serve. Joining me are my two co-hosts, and here they are.
I'm Jim Filatico. When I'm not helping my clients grow their businesses online, you can find me traveling with friends and family.
Hi, I'm Kelly Biggs, and I'm the AT alien of the group. I love hanging with friends and family, and when I'm not doing that, you can find me on Peloton. I've clocked over 2,000 rides so far.
And I'm your host, John Manatas from Oakville, Ontario, Canada, with my guitar in hand, my Wi-Fi on life support, but always in tune with my clients. We should probably talk a little bit about these platforms because they might be foreign to our audience in terms of, WooCommerce versus Shopify versus, WordPress. How do we describe when you use what, and what your experiences have been with, for these ideal situations, use this platform for these ones and so forth. And, one of the questions that comes up a lot, I'll kick this off with the fact that people always think you have a WordPress site and you could just pop it into like a Shopify or a WooCommerce, when in fact, no, you have to pretty much drop it and work within, like if you want to go Shopify, you're dropping your WordPress site. You can take some of the highlights of it and try to form fit the templates that Shopify gives you, but you're moving whether you like it or not. And same with WooCommerce. I mentioned how it's great for customizing, but if you had a site already, you can probably recreate all that stuff on WooCommerce and move it over a lot easier than you can on Shopify. Shopify has its templates, period. It's going to be very hard to force fit maybe some of your favorite things into their templates, but at least that's been my experience.
Yeah.
What's your experience, guys?
Interesting. Yeah, interestingly, for our Branch and Vine company, that's the name of the company that sells the balsamics and the oils, they actually, we started with a template. So to take your question, when you're starting to build a website, you do have to decide what platform am I going to go forward with. Now, this could have changed, John, but my understanding, because I haven't done a lot on WooCommerce, but I've seen people do like a front end WordPress, but then when you're ready to shop,
yes.
It directs you to your e-commerce. And I guess you could do that on Shopify as well. But typically, Shopify tends to be smaller businesses because WooCommerce can be price prohibitive. For our client, we did start with a theme, but we customized it. So now that does require, you're going to have to get somebody that knows how to code. And so that is that requirement. And then if you change too much, you might not be able to go back to the theme. So again, you have to begin with the end in mind. But typically, to your point, I have not seen a lot of people from a Shopify do the front end on WordPress or anything else. I've seen people, I don't know, y'all can tell me. I think it depends on the number of products also as to whether you might want to do one over the other. Now, for this client, she has over 1,000 products. So I say that to say something like a Wix, I don't think would work very well for them. And that's where she was coming from. Okay. Right. So we landed on, she actually had two separate sites altogether. One was on Shopify, one was on Wix. She liked some of the functionality with some and some. That's why we had to do some coding to just trying to combine those. So it's not that it can't be done, but it's just how much do you want to pay to get it done is important. But that from my experience, it's been the supplement. I think they had maybe 30 products. So Wix was fine. Wix was fine. And I think if you're somebody wanting to put something out there real quick and you know that that's what it's going to be and it doesn't matter, like you're okay with the templated things and you want somebody to create it there, it can be cost effective, and they're doing a lot. There's one of those platforms that I keep my eye on because they're getting better and better with working with the Googles and other search engines to make sure that they have the technical things. Like a Duda even has Duda is a lesser known platform.
I'm glad you guys talked about raise Duda because I know both you guys love Duda. What are some of the things that you guys love about working with Duda? Because I think it doesn't get talked about that often, but I know you guys have used it extensively. I actually haven't, so I can learn a few things from you guys on that front.
Mm-hmm. Jim's the guru here.
Yeah. I don't know if it's guru is the right thing. I do like Duda for smaller businesses. I think you have to take a step back, and that's what we do is take a step back. Like we're talking about just for e-commerce. If it's multiple SKUs, if it's multiple differences in the SKUs, whether it's size or color or whatever, or like an industrial type product where it's, a 3-inch chisel, a 3.5-inch chisel, a 3.25, and all those different things. Mm-hmm. When you add complexity, then it's really important to take a step back. And my opinion is that the Wix and the Spotify and those, it's kind of a crawl, walk, run situation. Mm-hmm. And so depending on what you're going to do and where you think you may want to be in a while, then you can lean into or decide what you want to do. Duda started out really as my opinion, started out as a great opening website that they really paid attention to the core web vitals and those kind of things. So you can be found where in the past, a Wix website didn't have much SEO integrity. It didn't have a lot of that built in. That being said, they have improved their game where as someone builds a website on their own, because that's usually what happens with those kind of websites, they'll prompt you. It's kind of like doing your taxes, and it'll prompt you to the next question, right? And so it'll prompt you, do you want to call that picture 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or do you want to call it, rose colored, whatever? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's getting better. And so you have to kind of talk about what your expectations are at the end to make sure you're choosing the right platform. Mm-hmm. And some of them are great. Some of them aren't so great. But Duda, for instance, they have improved upon their e-commerce. They do reporting that is very straightforward. It allows, as a digital marketer, for me to go in and do anything technical with WordPress scares the hell out of me. We have people that can do that for us. Right. Duda, I have no problem. Mm-hmm. Duda, it's something that it's very intuitive. And what I like about it too is there are clients that you have that are watching their budgets. Mm-hmm. And so you can say, hey, if you want to add a blog, if you want to change a picture out, if you want to add content, I can give you that access, right? And you can go in and do it. I'll do it for you. Mm-hmm. But, there's a charge to that normally, or unless you're paying a maintenance fee. But you can go in and do that. And they like that. I had a Finnish carpenter that started a business, and he would go in and update the pictures. He'd do a job and he'd take the before and afters, and he would actually go in and upload his own pictures and did a great job. Mm-hmm. And before and afters and really, really cool stuff that, sells the business. Right. And so that really using those type of platforms for, like a sole attorney. I use it for that. I have a Medicare solutions provider that does that. And that does a great job because you can go in and update, because there's all the periodicals from the state and from the Fed change all the time. And you can go in and he can go in and change them up, without having to bother me or ask me to do it. And it takes a few minutes. And I taught him how to do it, but then he can do it. So there are things for different types of websites that kind of lean towards different types of businesses. And you don't want to be crazy about it. But at the same time, if it helps somebody get in a little bit less expensive and lets them kind of be a DIYer, at least there's curbs in place that you can't mess it up. You're not going to delete it. You can always go back, and And it's one of those things where it says, "Are you sure?" like 3 times. You sure you want to do this? You sure you want to, what I mean?
It sounds like it's perfect for do-it-yourselfers. Yeah.
It does work well for do-it-yourselfers. It also does well for, at least for us, especially beginning, at the very beginning of our agencies. It allows you to do that and work with the clients, maybe the smaller clients, to help them out. And it was intuitive for us too.
I cringe a little when you say a do-it-selfer for a website. I cringe just a little, because what we're saying really is that, yes, you can build it. However, what you won't know, the time it takes you to build a really good website, depending on how much you're getting paid per hour. So time is money. Right. And I also you have to weigh that with how much resources that you have. I understand that. But if time is money and we can build you a website in 4 or 5 weeks, I promise you it's going to take you months to get something that more likely than not will not be as good from a standpoint of foundational SEO, from all of those things. So when we say the picking is really more about, to Jim's point, but after, if you just do not, if your budget just lends itself to, I just need a really nice website, but I want something that I can go in and not be scared about making changes, then the platforms of choice for me, I agree with Jim 100%, would be more the Dudas or the Wix of the world.
I don't think any of us would suggest that anybody would build their website on their own, because like we use the phrase a number of times in earlier episodes too, that we think about the end first. And we know what we're going to do with that website afterwards. If it's all about getting your website found and being effective after it's built, as we mentioned in earlier episodes, how we will build that website has that in mind throughout. So we're going to build it with the right elements to make our life easier when we start doing SEO later for them. Whereas a person who does it by themselves from the outset perhaps doesn't have that SEO knowledge, doesn't know how to build it properly so that this website is effective after it's built. I think, like you said, Kelly, it's great for do-it-yourselfers who want to tinker with it after we've already built it for them, because we're the ones that have to use it to do proper SEO and other digital things that is going to make them be found online and be effective online.
And that's where it depends on the type of platform you use, because some of the platforms are better at putting those curbs up and asking the right questions. Like I said, with like taxes, don't forget to do this. You should add this and those kind of things. And that helps them get it going. But I agree with you. And I always joke with my clients and say, you do what you do best and I'll do what I do best.
Exactly.
If you're a great plumber, go do plumbing. Go do plumbing and make your money doing plumbing, and I'll build your website for you. And together we'll do a really good job of, producing a website. That's the opposite side of the coin, is where we've all had clients like this, where they're like, okay, build a website and I'll see you in however long you say it's going to take. And then you never get anything from them to be able to put the meat to the website. No content, no information, no passion about the website. And I've had that happen a couple of times where I've learned to say now, okay, you're going to have homework. This isn't you throw it over the fence. You know what I mean? We're going to work together on the content, because you have the knowledge, you have the passion, you have the why you got into business in the first place. And that has to come across. And if it doesn't, it's boring.
It is boring, and it falls very flat. It reminds me of when I was building a website for someone, and in this instance, it was an accountant. And so before working with me, the accountant had this one lane of clients that were working with him that quite honestly, they done well for themselves and they built this lane. Like these people knew them because actually it was, and we keep talking about COVID like COVID was last year, but this was born.
They're just scarred for life.
Exactly. But they had a job that they could no longer do. They were in the travel industry. And so because nobody was traveling, they then they studied and got their license to do taxes. And they worked for H&R Block for a while. And then they said, you know what, I can do this on my own. And so they did. And they built a little website. Thank God it was on WordPress. So that's always a relief because you can always make some changes more easily. I say to WordPress, it just fell flat because you could tell it was kind of templated, even though it was built on WordPress. And so we took over for them. And so we have meetings and we were just talking to them through, just that buyer persona, like who do you like to work with beyond the one you've already created the niche for? What about that person makes sense? What are you solving for them? Again, going back to the jelly effect, Andy Bounds and the afters. What did they get after working with you? But also, what's an area that you would love to play in? Like what's an area, what would be a great ideal client for you? And we started talking about it. And one of the areas was really around this idea of people who, a lot of people went from being W-2 to 1099 employees. And they're just very confused about what that meant for them. Right. And so, and I would have never gotten this if I'm not in the trenches with them. Again, we talked about context versus content, right? A content writer would never get this context because they're not working with you day to day. So as we dug more into that, we started thinking, well, this is what we're going to write blogs about. This is what, like, if you want these people, we got to answer questions that they're curious about. And so 6 months down the road, like initially he was just like, I feel like we might as well still be at H&R Block. I'm just getting all kinds of calls, like no direction, nobody, people really just want to get my advice and get off the phone, right? Maybe they, with the same analogy, maybe they were in TurboTax or whatever, and they got a question that they just couldn't answer. The bot couldn't answer for them, said, or they were nervous and wanted to get a second opinion. And they spent a lot of time doing that, but, probably around 6 months, and we're doing SEO for them. SEO, search engine optimization. That means when we type you into Google or whatever search engine, you're going to get found. And so when I was going over the results, the client said, hey, and this is, they're solopreneur. They have 3 to 5 employees at any given time, depending on how busy the season is. And he was just like, hey, we've noticed that we're getting the right kind of calls. We're getting the right kind of calls. These are the people we want to talk to. Not only are they getting the right kind of calls, they're closing more of the deal, connecting with the people that they want to be their customers, which is, segue back to why we do what we do here, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to Why Your Business is Invisible Online. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do us a favor and subscribe and follow us on Spotify and Apple. Be sure to share it with other business owners who might find it helpful. If you want to dig deeper, contact us at ruinvisibleonline.com. That's capital letter R, capital letter U, followed by invisibleonline.com. Or message us on our LinkedIn business profile with the same title, Are You Invisible Online? The information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and may or may not reflect the official policy or position of WSI Corporate. Always consult a qualified digital marketing expert before making significant changes to your online strategy. Until next time, keep connecting with the people who matter most to your business and join us for our next episode.